Most people think becoming wealthy is just a matter of having more money. But that's not actually true, because something strange happens as your net worth grows. At first, every dollar feels like a struggle. You're working hard, saving what you can, trying to stay ahead of bills. And it often feels like you're running on a treadmill that never stops. Then one day, without realizing it, you cross a line. Your money starts helping. Later, you cross another line. Your investments begin producing meaningful income. And eventually, if you stay consistent long enough, you reach a point where money operates completely differently than it did when you started. These are the 3 wealth levels that change everything, not because they are magical numbers, but because they represent major shifts in how wealth grows. If you're currently building your financial future, understanding these milestones may completely change how you think about investing, saving, and long-term success. Let's begin. Level 1, your money stops being a passenger. For most people, the beginning is the hardest part, not because investing is complicated, but because progress feels invisible. Imagine planting a tree. For months, maybe years, it barely seems to grow. You water it, you care for it, you wait, and from the outside, nothing exciting appears to be happening. Building wealth often feels exactly the same. You invest a little each month, maybe $200, maybe $500, maybe more, and after a year, the results don't look life-changing. Many people quit during this phase, not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack discipline, but because humans naturally expect rewards quickly. We live in a world where almost everything happens instantly. Food arrives in minutes, movies stream instantly, packages show up tomorrow. But wealth building doesn't work on that timeline. It rewards patience. The first major wealth level occurs when your investment portfolio becomes large enough that market growth starts making a noticeable difference. Suddenly, your account isn't growing only because of your deposits. It's growing because the assets themselves are producing returns. This is the moment many investors experience their first real breakthrough. They begin realizing that every dollar invested today may continue working for decades. The journey still requires effort, but now your money has joined the team. You're no longer working alone. Level 2, your investments start paying bills. The second wealth level is where things become exciting, because this is when investments begin creating meaningful income. Think about the average worker. Most people exchange time for money. No work, no paycheck. That's how life operates for the majority of the population. But investments introduce a completely different concept: money creating more money. At first, investment gains may only cover a small expense, perhaps a utility bill, maybe a phone payment. Nothing dramatic. But over time, those gains become larger. Eventually, investment growth may equal an entire month's rent, or several months of groceries, or a vacation. For the first time, you begin experiencing what financial leverage feels like. Your effort from years ago is producing benefits today. This changes the way people think, because they stop viewing money as something that disappears after being spent. Instead, they begin seeing money as a worker, a productive asset, a tool that can continue generating value year after year. Many investors describe this stage as the moment wealth building finally becomes real. Before, it felt theoretical. Now, it feels tangible. Your investments are actively improving your life. And once that starts happening, motivation often increases dramatically, because now you can see the results. Level 3, freedom becomes an option. The third wealth level isn't about luxury. It's not about sports cars. It's not about private jets. It's not about showing off. It's about options. And options are incredibly powerful. Imagine waking up tomorrow knowing that your financial future does not depend entirely on your next paycheck. Imagine having enough assets that unexpected setbacks become manageable instead of devastating. A job loss becomes a challenge, not a disaster. A market downturn becomes temporary, not catastrophic. An emergency expense becomes an inconvenience, not a crisis. This is the point where wealth begins creating freedom. Not necessarily freedom from work, but freedom from fear. And that distinction matters. Many people assume wealthy individuals spend their lives relaxing on beaches. In reality, many continue working. The difference is that they work because they want to, not because they have no alternative. That psychological shift changes everything. The pressure decreases, stress becomes easier to manage, decision-making improves, long-term thinking becomes possible, and perhaps most importantly, people gain control over their time. Time is the one asset nobody can create more of. Money can grow, investments can compound, businesses can expand, but time remains limited, and true wealth ultimately provides more control over how that time is spent. Why most people never reach these levels? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't fail because they earn too little. They fail because they stop too early. The early years of investing are boring, slow, unexciting. There's no dramatic transformation, No overnight success story. No viral moment. They want proof that their sacrifices are working. But wealth building often hides its rewards until much later. Imagine quitting a marathon after the first mile because you aren't near the finish line. That sounds ridiculous. Yet that's exactly what many people do financially. They abandon the process before momentum arrives. The people who eventually succeed aren't necessarily smarter. They simply stay in the game long enough for compounding to do its work. The secret most people miss. When people talk about wealth, they often focus on income. How much someone earns, what job they have, how large their salary is. Income matters, but wealth is ultimately built through ownership, owning investments, owning productive assets, owning businesses, owning things that continue creating value. That's why two people earning identical incomes can end up with dramatically different financial futures. One spends everything, the other invests consistently. 20 years later, their lives may look completely different, not because one worked harder, but because one understood how money grows. Final thoughts. The biggest mistake people make is believing wealth is built through giant decisions. Most of the time, it isn't. It's built through small actions repeated consistently. One investment, one contribution, one smart decision at a time. The first wealth level arrives when your money starts helping. The second arrives when your investments begin producing meaningful income. The third arrives when financial freedom becomes a realistic option. None of these milestones happen overnight, but every one of them starts with the same step, getting started. Because years from now, you'll either be grateful that you began building wealth today, or you'll wish you had. And the difference between those two futures is often determined by the decisions you make right now.